championship. Unreal. Congratulations to the Geico Power Sports. From injury, last year's Southwick winner is third overall on a pretty wild day in the 450 class. Something you don't normally see in this sport. Ashley Filik turned the tables on her and won the title in 08 and 09. JP Money never gave up, came back and got it in 2010. So congrats to the Star Racing team for clinching the WMX title. Class was back in action. The WMX once again serving up more domination. Jessica Patterson, the Star Racing DNA Shred Sticks Yamaha. She wins both motos. Moto 1 was dry, Moto 2 was wet. Next, women's motocross class, another dominant performance by Jessica Patterson, the Star Racing Yamaha. She goes 1-1. Ashley Filik struggling a bit in the heat, goes 2-2. And Tara Geiger 3-3. Extra wrap up from the Flagstaff while the rain came down. Once it let up, Patterson didn't. She pulled away to win both motos. Ashley Filik and Tara Geiger tangled in the first moto, so that messed up their overall scores. He also had a couple other riders in the hunt, including Sarah Price, Vicki Golden, and Mariana Balby. Great battling between all those riders, but Patterson ends up with the win, once again undefeated. And the women's class was back in action here at Millville. Another classic, Jessica Patterson, Ashley Filik battling Moto 1. Filik gets the whole shot, Patterson passes her, Patterson goes off the track, gets back on the track, maintains the lead. Filik goes down, which drops to third. Patterson wins the moto, Tara Geiger second. Filik number 3 in that one, and that would loom large. Filik would come back in moto number 2 and get the win. A little bit of a rough go of it for Patterson, but she will pull out second in that moto, and the 1-2 scores would edge to 3-1 of Filik. So that's another Motocross Series was back in action today on the sand. Jessica Patterson goes down, points leader in the first turn. She's got a lot of work to do, but she would put in the work. She would come all the way back to second and nearly run down Ashley Filik at the finish of the first moto. Filik holds on for the win. Well, Patterson, whenever she did right to go fast in Moto 1, she would do it again in Moto 2. She simply checked out a huge overall lead. That would give her 2-1 scores and the win on the day. Filik and Tara Geiger would round out the podium. This was a golden opportunity for Filik to make up a whole bunch of points, but the number... And the women's motocross class was back in action. Great start for Ashley Filik. She's got Jessica Patterson duking it out with her in the first couple corners until Patterson goes down. Patterson, just like she did in Southwick in the first moto last week, would come all the way from last to second, reserve her points lead with Filik taking the win. Moto 2 is even better between the two. They duked it out all the way down to the last corner. Filik and Patterson bump. Filik goes down. Patterson able to take them. And the women's motocross class was in action at Redbud for the first time. But a bit of a shake-up in the standings. This time, the defending champ, Ashley Filik, is back up front on her Honda Red Bull racing machine. She wins both motos. The second one, a dramatic battle with series points leader Jessica Patterson. They passed each other a few times. It came down to the last lap. Filik able to hold off Patterson and win the overall with 1-1 scores. Welcome back to Victory Lane, Ashley. And the girls and the boys will be back racing in 2 weeks in Millville, Minnesota. Up today, the women's class. This was a no-doubter. This track was rough, this track was nasty, and you know that the experience of Jessica Patterson was going to be hard to overtake on this one, and that's exactly what she did. She overtook Ashley Filik early in Moto 1, came out in Moto 2, got the job done, a championship. That's 6 for the career of JP Money. This is something you don't normally see in this sport. Ashley Filik turned the tables on her and won the title in 08 and 09. JP Money never gave up, came back and got it in 2010. So congrats to the Star Racing team for clinching the WMX title. Geico Power Sports Honda's Trey Kennard's going to grab the whole shot and battle it out with KTM rider Tommy Searle. But that didn't last long. The 377 of Christophe Porcel would take the lead and check out to a seemingly easy moto win, but no. Porcel would throw it away and crash, opening the door for a rookie, Eli Tomac, who had worked his way up to the number 2 position to take the lead. Tomac looked like he was going to win the very first professional moto he ever entered, but he would crash as well, leaving Searle and Porcel to duke it out for the moto win. On the very last lap, Porcel would make the pass, take the moto win. Searle and Tomac second and third. Moto number 2, Will Hahn pulls the whole shot, but a big first turn crash leads to a red flag situation. They restart Moto 2, and Will Hahn grabs the whole shot again. The big difference, though, this time, Tomac had a good start, was right behind him, but not for long. Tomac took the lead and took off. An amazing performance by the rookie, who would hold off his teammate Trey Kennard to win his second professional moto. Real question was, could Porcel come through the pack and upset Tomac for the overall? He came close, passing riders all the way down to the last lap to get third. His 1-3 scores matched Tomac's 3-1, but the tiebreaker is better finished in Moto 2. That means a pure rookie in his first pro race, Eli Tomac, wins the 250 class at Hangtown. And amazing. Tomac keeps the buzz going with a whole shot in Moto 1, and he absolutely checks out, puts on a riding clinic, and he was gone. Christophe Porcel would soon move into second, and behind them a crazy pack, about 8 riders duking it out, trying to stay inside the top 10. Nico Izzi was in third for a while until he fell. Blake Baggett was in third for a while until his bike broke. Finally, Dean Wilson would plow his way into the number 3 spot at the end. And then Tomac hit the wall. The first chink in the armor for the rookie about 20 minutes in. His lap times drop off. Christophe Porcel is able to make the pass, go on and take the moto win. Tomac would cruise home second, with Wilson in third. Let's go on to moto number 2 of the 250 class. Could Eli Tomac bounce back physically after hitting the wall of that moto? Well, at the start it looked good. He had himself hit another whole shot, but it wouldn't last nearly as long this time. Dean Wilson was shadowing him the whole way. Again, about halfway through, Tomac started to drop off the pace in the heat. Wilson would take off, and he didn't have to worry about Porcel in the overall. Porcel and Jake Weimer had gone down on the first turn. Porcel worked his way up to 9th. He was stuck back there. It looked like Wilson had the overall on lock. Porcel would climb up to 5th on the final lap, but with a 3-1, it was all Wilson's. But then Wilson gives it away. He let Tyler Rattray and Brock Tickle pass him in the last lap. He thought they were lapped riders. I think the heat might have affected his judgment there. He was a little bit out of it when it was over. And because he goes 3-3, Porcel's 1-5 is going to be enough to give him the overall. And credit out to Tyler Rattray, solid all day. Porcel's going to get the whole shot at Moto 1, but quickly challenged by Justin Barcia, who would pass him to take the lead. And then uncharacteristically, Porcel would fall back into 4th. Barcia took off. He won his first moto of the season, so that'll end all the controversy over what was wrong with Justin Barcia for the first 2 rounds. Behind him, Tyler Rattray would take a solid 2nd. Dean Wilson would battle, fight his way inside the top 5, but late in the race, Blake Baggett puts on a strong charge for 3rd. Let's go to moto number 2 of the 250 class. Another whole shot for Porcel, but this time Barcia is nowhere in the picture. Porcel would have to deal with pressure from his teammate, Tyler Rattray, as well as Wilson, but then Wilson would crash and drop out of the top 5. Suddenly at that point, pretty obvious. If Rattray just held on for 2nd, he would go 2-2 on the day, and that would be enough to give him the overall. So he backed it down and didn't try to challenge his teammate Porcel, who would go on to win the moto and take 2nd overall. As for Barcia, never got going, had a tough time even staying in the points. Not sure exactly what happened to the Wonder Kid in moto number 2. Similar story for his teammate Eli Tomac, who was so spectacular in the first 2 rounds of the tour. He was outside of the top 10 in both races. And finally, their other teammate, Trey Kennard, he was pretty solid, went down on the first lap of Moto 2, fought his way all the way back to 4th. The only other guy in front of him, his other teammate, Blake Wharton, who was a solid 3rd in the 2nd moto. Podium looks like this. It's Rattray, it's Porcel, and Blake. Huge crop of fans here on Father's Day weekend. Hot and humid weather, perfect summer day. And 377 Christophe Porcel gets the whole shot in the first 250 moto with a snarling pack of talent behind him. The first challenge would come from the 48 of Max Anstey. Good to see him back from an injury last week at High Point. Then Justin Barcia was 3rd, Eli Tomac up front. Barcia would challenge Anstey for 2nd and go down. Rattray, who had just passed Tomac here, would inherit a position from him. Further back, the 108 of Dean Wilson came from about 14th to rally into the top 5. Barcia would be back to put more pressure on Anstey. Anstey would eventually drop back to 8th. Will Hahn would take 5th. Brock Tickle 6th. But the win would go to Christophe Porcel on the 377 over his teammate Rattray. Barcia in 3rd and Wilson in 4th. Moto number 2, Will Hahn's going to get the whole shot. A much better start for Wilson on the 108. He'll be challenging for the lead early, with Barcia also in the hunt. Christophe Porcel was not far back either, but Porcel was not nearly as strong in this moto as he was in Moto 1. Wilson gets the lead and begins to pull away from Hahn, and then Rattray goes past Porcel. Porcel not able to get going. Then it was down to Rattray versus Barcia in a battle for 2nd. If Rattray could go 2-2, he would win the overall for the day. Tough day for Trey Kennard, a pair of bad starts. He would end up 7th overall. Wilson would win the moto handily. The question was, could Rattray get to 2nd? He couldn't. Rattray went off the track challenging Barcia in the last lap. So with 4-1 scores, Dean Wilson wins his first ever. Highlights. Christophe Porcel, points leader coming into the event, puts his Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki out front early. Has to weather a storm, a challenge from his teammate Dean Wilson and also Trey Kennard. And then Porcel, a couple laps in, said, sick and tired of playing these games, I'm taking off. He did. He would win the moto. Wilson would hold off Kennard second and third. Moto number 2, a bad start for Porcel. Kennard's going to grab the whole shot on his Geico Power Sports Honda. Had his teammate Blake Wharton behind him to run some defense. Kennard took off. Wharton had to deal with the Kawasaki Brigade. Wilson was behind him. Rattray was behind him. Porcel was behind him. The only monster Kawasaki rider not in the hunt was last year's winner at Colorado. Jake Weimer had a terrible moto, went down a bunch of times. Better luck next week for Jake. And about halfway through the race, Porcel was sick of waiting. He got around Rattray, he got around Wilson, he got around Wharton, and then he closed the gap on Trey Kennard, and they had a great battle out front. Kennard gave it everything he had, but eventually the Frenchman was able to go from outside to inside to take over the lead, and from there would go 1-1 for the first time this year, sweeping both motos, winning the overall, and extending his points lead with Kennard and Wilson. Moto number 1. 377 on the Kawasaki, your championship points leader. Christophe Porcel gets the whole shot, checks out, and is gone. Behind him, his teammates Tyler Rattray and Dean Wilson battled hard. Rattray would end up second, and Wilson would end up third. And then behind him, 3 Geico's Power Sports Honda riders. Trey Kennard would have to come from about 10th to get to 4th. His teammate Barsha would finish 5th. 6th would go to Blake Wharton. And more bad luck for Jake Weimer, who won this race last year. He was in the mix going for a podium. Tangles up with Brock Tickle and would end up just a few positions further back. Moto number 2, not the same Porcel. Doesn't get the good start this time around. It's his teammate Wilson with the whole shot. Wilson would try to check out, but it was close behind him. Trey Kennard starts putting on moves. He gets around his teammate Wharton. He gets around his teammate Barsha. He gets around Rattray, and he goes after the leader, Wilson. Now things were going to change in a hurry. This put Kennard in contention to win the overall. He would make the pass on Wilson as they scrap back and forth. He bumps Wilson off the track. Kennard's going to win the moto, but Tyler Rattray still has a shot at the overall if he can go 2-2. But while Rattray's trying to pass Wilson to get to second, he goes over the bars in an endo, and that was the end of Rattray's bid for the win. As for Porcel, he would struggle to 5th in the second moto. He had 1-5 scores. Wilson went 3-2, and Kennard with 4-1 moto finishes wins his first ever AMA Pro Motocross overall. We're going to give it a call. 250 class, moto number 1. This battle between Trey Kennard, who won the last race of the tour, and your series points leader, Christophe Porcel. Kennard leads early. Porcel catches him, passes him, pulls away. Then Kennard catches back up, takes the lead. Then Porcel catches him, passes him again. Kind of a crazy race, but a 377 comes out on top. But then you saw what the issue was. He was pretty darn tired. He paced himself midway through. He was hot, but he still got the moto win. Kennard is going to end up second with Jake Weimer, a nice breakthrough ride for him in third. Moto number 2, Kennard's not messing around. He wants the overall. He will get the lead from Nico Izzy early, trying to check out. He's got pressure from Dean Wilson for the number 2 spot. Wilson would stay there for about half the moto, but then the skies opened up. It was raining. It was muddy. Kennard was able to pull away. He'll go 2-1 to win the overall. What the heck happened to Porcel? He got up to 7th at one point in Moto 2, but then would fall all the way back to 10th in the end. Porcel continues to struggle in the second motos this year. That allows Wilson and Kennard to make up more ground on the points. And rounding out the podium, Tyler Rattray. In the 250 class, Dean Wilson, Trey Kennard fighting for the whole shot in the first moto. Kennard would edge him out into turn 2, and up horsepower hill. Kennard was gone. Dean Wilson would go down early in this one. That would open the door for a couple other riders to try to chase Kennard, including his teammates, Blake Wharton and Justin Barsha. Then Barsha would run into mechanical problems and drop out of the moto. Rider watch 377, series points leader Christophe Porcel started in 10th, worked his way all the way back to second by the finish, and set up a nice second moto showdown with Kennard, who has all the momentum so far in this series. Moto number 2, an exact instant replay at the start of Moto 1. It's Wilson and Kennard battling again. It's Kennard securing the lead again. It would be different as far as the competition. Wilson would go down again, but Porcel would quickly take second. It looked like this time the Frenchman was going to erase that Mr. First Moto reputation he's developed in the last few weeks. He wanted to run with Kennard, but he could not. Porcel actually was hit in the clutch cable by a rock, would lose his clutch in the moto. But I don't know if he would have been able to stop Kennard anyway. Kennard was riding absolutely flawless. He goes on to a 1-1 score for the first time in his career. That's 3 straight overall victories. He is now second in the series and only 38 points down on Porcel, who's 2-2 on the day on the podium, as well as his teammate. Solid run for Tyler Rattray to take third. class. A collision course set there as well. Trey Canard's won 3 straight races. Christophe Pourcel owns this Unadilla track. In the first moto, Pourcel showed how fast he can go Unadilla. He immediately took the lead, started pulling away until he wants it hard. A big cartwheel damages the bike. Suddenly your series points leader is out. So up front now is Wilson. Again, he's got Justin Barsha to deal with. If Barsha bowls him over a berm, knocks him down to take the lead. Canard sitting back there, taking it all in. Rides past the down bike of Wilson, then gets around Barsha. Then Barsha crashes. So Canard's headed to another moto victory until late in the race, his teammate Blake Wharton put the pressure on, but was unable to execute a pass. Trey Canard wins and makes up a huge 25 points on Pourcel in just 30 minutes. On to Moto 2. Pourcel gamely able to come back, but he gets a bad start while Canard takes the lead and takes off. Pourcel took a few laps to get his wheels back underneath him, and then he was on fire. He went past Barsha. He went past Eli Tomac. He went past his teammates, Tyler Rattray and Dean Wilson. He was in second, 8 seconds behind Canard, and he just kept digging and digging and digging. He closed the gap, and with 2 laps to go, incredibly catch and pass Canard to take the lead. Canard tried to get it back in the last lap, couldn't get it done. Pourcel wins the moto, Canard wins the overall, makes him a huge bunch of points. But you gotta say that Pourcel's second moto recovery was one of the best rides we've seen all year. So that sets the stage. We've got an off weekend, and then we're going to the famous Sands of Southwick in Massachusetts. Be there. Make sure you check out allysports.com for more info. Class championship points on the line here. Christophe Pourcel, Trey Canard. Whole shot Moto 1 goes to Will Hahn on the Lucas Oil Troy Lee Honda, but quickly he's got pressure from Canard. Hahn would hold on for half the moto. Solid performance, but Canard would get around. He's won 4 straight overalls coming into the race today, and fires first with the first moto win. Bad news for Pourcel though, he would crash on lap 1, go back to 12th. He fought valiantly, but would only grab 7th by the time this moto is over. That left Canard within 5 points heading into moto number 2. So you got to watch out for Tyler Rattray, who was very close to Canard, almost caught him at the end of Moto 1. He was chomping at the bit in Moto 2. But Hahn's going to grab the whole shot again. This time the pressure being applied by Justin Barsha. He would get around, take off with the lead. But then Rattray was digging and digging and digging. He would move into second around Hahn and then go after Barsha. But Barsha, who was 4th in Moto 1, Rattray knew a 2-2 would edge out the 4-1, and that would give him the overall. So congrats out to the number 28. Not only does he take the overall win, but he also had a new baby girl, Brooke, at 4 a.m. today. So he's a double winner in our books. As for the championship fight, this time the bad luck goes to Canard. He would tip over much in the same way that Pourcel did in Moto 1. Canard would end up 9th in this one. Pourcel would get 3rd in the second moto. Canard makes up 3 points in the championship, only 13 separating him as we head to the final 2 rounds. Line in the 250 class. Let's go to Moto 1. Tyler Rattray grabs the whole shot. Christophe Pourcel points in the series, quickly gets around. But Trey Canard, who started just outside the top 5, made moves early, and he made them quickly. Got into the number 1 spot around Pourcel, and they would battle. Back and forth they went, back and forth they went, all the way down to the final lap. Pourcel pulled off his best lap of the race on the last lap to try to get around Canard, but could not do it. Trey Canard wins it straight up in Moto number 1 to make up 3 more points on Pourcel, with Rattray and Eli Tomac coming through next. Moto number 2, Pourcel is looking for revenge, but he gets a bad start. Dean Wilson is the early leader. Canard would cut and slice his way up into second. Then Pourcel would get on Canard's rear fender, and a 3-way battle for the lead would ensue. Canard had to be a little uncomfortable in the Monster Pro Circuit sandwich, but he was able to make his way past Wilson. Wilson quickly yielded to his teammate Pourcel, opening the door for another classic Canard and Pourcel battle down to the checkered flag. Pourcel gave Canard everything he had, but he couldn't find a line around. Canard wins the second moto, down to the wire, just like in Moto 1. 1-1 on the day. He makes up 6 more valuable points. It is just a 7-point lead for Pourcel going into the finale, which will be live on Speed from Holland, California next weekend. What a race for this championship. Congrats out to Rattray, who ends up 3rd. Wanted to read was what happened in the 250 class. Well, in all the scenarios you might have run through, you didn't expect this. Moto 1, Dean Wilson and Tyler Rattray get out front early, and Trey Canard and Christophe Pourcel, the 2 riders battling for this championship, only 7 points between them, went at it. They were in 4th and 5th, behind Cole Seeley, passing each other back and forth. Then Canard finally pounces, gets to the inside, makes a move on Pourcel, takes over the spot, and then instantly crashes when he hits a hay bale.
that point, it looked like it was over for Kennard. But then the unthinkable happens. With 3 laps to go, Christophe Pourcel cruising in the number 3 spot, crashes all by himself, dislocates his shoulder. A few moments later, Kennard would roll by, past the downed Frenchman, and with that, Kennard was going to take over the points lead and essentially have the title wrapped up because Pourcel would not be able to answer the bell for Moto 2. Congrats out to Dean Wilson, who wins Moto 1 wire to wire. Rattray in second, Cole Celia career best third, but the big story is Trey Kennard taking 4th in the Moto and grabbing the points lead. Once again, Pourcel not on the gate for the final Moto of the year, and a heartbreaker. Wilson is going to grab the whole shot again and check out again, ending the season on a high note. The Scotsman Canadian-American goes 1-1 on the day for his 2nd overall of the year. Tyler Rattray goes 2-2, and that would actually be enough points to overtake Pourcel for 2nd in the series. But Trey Kennard, in 3rd in this Moto, improbably comes from 57 points down in the series to win the championship. Unreal. Congratulations to the Geico Power Sports. Chad Reed had a lot of doubts coming into this race, but he erased them as soon as he grabbed the whole shot on Moto 1 and left the field in his wake. The Monster Kawasaki rider was untouched on way to an easy first Moto victory. The battle was on behind him. Davey Millsaps, Josh Grant, Mike Alessi scrapping, duking it out for the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th spots. And Ryan Dungey, your new Monster Energy Supercross champion, well, he was nowhere to be seen. Stalled the bike early on and struggled coming through the pack. Late in the race, the battle continues. Grant passes Alessi. Alessi passes Grant back. Grant gets Alessi again. And then in the very last lap, Grant rallies, goes after Millsaps, takes over the number 2 position. Chad Reed wins over Grant, Millsaps, Alessi, and Brett Metcalf. 2nd 450 Moto. Whole shot this time is going to go to the 350cc KTM of Mike Alessi. And just like Chad Reed erased any doubts about him in Moto 1, Alessi did that in Moto 2, checking out, leaving the field behind. The question was, could Reed get far enough forward in the order to prevent Alessi from winning the overall? And he did. Reed, through traffic, was able to get 3rd. With 1-3 scores, he would edge Alessi, who went 4-1. A good solid day for Davey Millsaps, who had a 3rd and a 2nd. Grant and Dungey struggling to move through traffic in Moto 2. They were off the pace. Chad Reed wins the Hangtown Classic, and he carries that number 1 plate with the point lead into Texas. 450 class. Whole shot for the number 24 of Brett Metcalf in the first Moto. He's got Ryan Dungey all over him. About halfway through, Dungey finally busts through and makes the pass. Metcalf used a lot of energy trying to hold Dungey off, and he would eventually fade back to 7th. Ben Townley was in 2nd, but late in the race, Chad Reed puts on a strong charge. He gets past Metcalf, and he gets past Townley to take over the number 2 spot, setting up a nice battle for the overall between Reed, Townley, and Dungey in Moto 2. Moto 2, Metcalf gets the whole shot again. Scratch Townley from the battle for the overall. He goes down on the first turn, would have to work his way back to the top 15. Dungey would eventually move to the front, same thing with Andrew Short, but it was Mike Alessi actually on the move. He passed all those riders, take the lead, and then crash. Brett Metcalf would nearly get tangled up with him. That would open the door for Dungey to get into the lead, check out, and go 1-1 on the day. Kyle Regal was the star of this Moto. He would actually pass Short, he would pass Metcalf, he would pass Reed, and hold on for 2nd, putting him on the podium. Reed going 2-3, his 2nd overall. Class of 450s, which aired live on NBC Sports. First Moto, Ryan Dungey going to battle for the whole shot with Josh Grant. Everybody waiting to see these 2 guys hook up in a Moto. Grant took off early. Dungey reeled him back in, and just when we thought we'd see a battle for the lead, Grant goes down. Dungey takes over the number 1 spot and checks out. Grant was able to pick up his bike and finish 2nd in front of Honda Red Bull Racing's Andrew Short with a solid run in 3rd. Nowhere to be seen in this one, Chad Reed, who struggled outside of the top 10. Tough luck for our series points leader and defending champion. Let's go to Moto number 2. Dungey with another great start, but Short is going to grab the early lead in this. Short was going for his first ever Moto win on a 450. He took off early, and about halfway through, Dungey started to reel him back in. By the 20-minute mark, he was all over the Honda man, and eventually Dungey puts his rock star Makita Suzuki into the number 1 spot. He win both Motos. That's the 2nd straight weekend he's done that. Now he's going to be the points leader on the tour because Reed broke his front brake early in the Moto. They couldn't get it fixed. A DNF for Chad Reed, very disappointing. Solid run for Short to end up 2nd in the Moto, and Brett Metcalf on the Geico Power Sports Honda takes 3rd overall. That's his first career podium in the 450. Let's go to the 450 class. Everyone looking for revenge after Ryan Dungey won the last 2 races. Look at this battle on the first lap of Moto 1. Brett Metcalf eventually yielded to 29 of Andrew Short. Chad Reed couldn't get going in the early laps. Allowed Ryan Dungey to slip by him. Dungey would be challenging Mike Alessi for the number 2 spot behind Short, and then Dungey goes down, quickly back up and putting on a strong charge to get positions back. He would get back into 3rd and challenge Alessi all the way down to the finish, but unfortunately he didn't have goggles when the grass wet and splashed on the backside of his lens and couldn't see. Short's going to hold on to take the Moto win, and Alessi is going to hold off Dungey in lap traffic to take 2nd, Reed in 4th. Go to Moto 2. Short wants to go 1-1 on the day and win his first ever 450 overall. He's got the whole shot, he's got the lead, but he's got Ryan Dungey right behind him. That's not good news for anyone in this class. Here's Dungey challenging the 29 for the lead. He would soon take that position away, and then Short would go further back. Chad Reed would get around Short for 2nd. Then Alessi would struggle in the moto with a bent front brake disc suffered in a collision in turn 1. Dungey checked out. He was going to win the moto and the overall with 3-1 scores. The last battle left, Metcalf versus Grant versus Townley for 3rd. Townley on the last lap would make the pass on Josh Grant to take over that number 3 spot. And they definitely had the fans cheering at Bugs Creek. Ryan Dungey, though, wins another overall. That's 3 wins in the first 4 rounds. Go to the 450 class. Moto number 1, Andrew Short, the home track specialist, grabs the lead. He has Ryan Dungey and Josh Grant behind him after Ben Townley falls from 2nd place. And then Short would fall himself. That would lead Dungey to battle with Josh Grant. Josh Grant did what most people have not been able to do this year. He caught, he passed, and he pulled away from Ryan Dungey to win the moto. Dungey will finish up in the number 2 position. Tough luck for your series champion Chad Reed, who would only be able to finish 10th, was not able to move forward after a bad start. Mike Alessi ended up 12th, and Short was 8th after that crash while leading. Let's go to moto number 2 of the 450s. This time the whole shot's going to go to Short again, but Dungey was right there, was able to get around him a couple laps in and pull away to an uncontested 1-1 score. Behind him, a tremendous battle between 3 Honda riders. Short had to deal with Ben Townley, who moved into 2nd, and then Brett Metcalf was there battling Short for the podium in the moto. Those 3 riders would stay glued to each other all the way to the finish, with Alessi putting in a much better ride this time in 5th. All 4 of those riders were close over the line, but Townley is going to end up 2nd overall in front of Metcalf, squeezing Short and Alessi off of the box. As for Josh Grant, the first moto winner, he was down in the first turn. Valiantly fought back to get inside the top 10, but that wasn't good enough for an overall. Also, Chad Reed fell in the first lap of this moto, which hurt his results as well. So 450 class, an instant classic in the first moto. Andrew Short, his 5th straight hole shot on the season. He'd have pressure from Dungey and Townley and Reed. He would respond. Dungey would get around him, Short would get him back. Then Dungey, Short, or Dungey and Townley and Reed would all get around Short. It was back and forth between all 4 riders. Dungey was in the number 2 spot, gunning for Townley, who was the leader. They passed each other back and forth about 5 times. It would come down to the last lap. Dungey putting pressure on Townley, Reed putting pressure on Dungey. Which one of the 3 was going to take it? Townley goes down in the last lap. He tangles up with Reed. Dungey's able to squirt through and win the moto. Unbelievable racing in 450 Moto 1. Moto 2, not so difficult for Dungey. He grabs the whole shot. Short's able to pass him on the first lap. Dungey gets him back. Townley would get around Short, go into 2nd, try to run Dungey down. He didn't have the pace to do it. Then Reed would get around Townley. He would go after Dungey. He didn't have the speed either. Dungey would continue to distance himself slowly but surely and win yet another moto and his 5th straight overall. Reed and Townley will finish out the podium. Let's go to the 450 class. Welcome back to the action. Kevin Windham grabs the whole shot at moto number 1. Replacement rider on the Honda Red Bull Racing Squad for Davey Millsaps. He would lead half of the first moto. Be under pressure from Ryan Dungey. Dungey would take the lead from Windham. At the same time that happened, Josh Grant gets around Andrew Short to get the 3rd. Then Grant passes Windham to go to 2nd. We thought he might make a run at Dungey. Not happening. Not at Dungey's home track. The number 5 takes an easy moto win with Grant Short 2nd and 3rd. Windham, nice job for 5th. Let's go to the 2nd moto of the 450 class. Not such a good start for Windham this time. It would be Andrew Short and Ben Townley battling for the lead on lap 1. Townley would get the lead, then crash on lap 2. He'd be Short the number 1 spot. Dungey would make the pass on him, pull away, and Dungey was headed to 1-1 scores in front of his home track fans. It's like 6 wins in a row for Ryan Dungey. Behind him, a spectacular ride by the privateer Kyle Riegel.
who would finish 8th in Moto 1, crash in Moto 2, still come all the way back to finish 2nd ahead of Short. Awesome ride for Kyle Regal. Wyndham and Ben Townley would round out the overall. Short 2nd, Regal 3rd, and Dungey, of course, number 1. Chad Reed, defending series champ, by the way, hurt his neck in practice, pulled out of Moto 1, did not start. Class. Well, we know who the star of the show is, Ryan Dungey, but off the start, the star has been Andrew Short. He and his teammate on the Honda Red Bull ride, Kevin Wyndham, are 1-2 early. Dungey would eventually pick his way past Brett Metcalf for 3rd, Wyndham for 2nd, then Short for the lead, and take off like he has done at just about every race this year. Another moto win for Dungey. Solid performance for Short to finish 2nd, Metcalf in 3rd. Wyndham would fade all the way back to 9th. 4th of the moto would go to Josh Grant, and 5th, Ryan Sykes. Awesome ride for the Moto Concepts Yamaha rider. Moto number 2. You can take this one to the bank. Andrew Short, another hole shot, has his teammate Kevin Wyndham right behind him again. But soon Dungey's up to the number 3 spot, putting pressure on. The Honda guys would be a little bit more stingy in the 2nd moto. They'd hold him off longer, but not long enough. Dungey would make the pass on Wyndham, then would go after Short. 17 minutes into the 30-minute moto. Dungey takes the lead, checks out to another 1-1 finish. That's the way it's gone for this guy the last couple of weeks, and he has a massive points lead. Late in the moto, Andrew Short would be under pressure from Tommy Hahn. Hahn was 7th in Moto 1. Strong in Moto 2. He catch Short, then Short put his hammer down and pulled away. Short goes 2-2 on the day to take 2nd overall. Metcalf fell in the first lap, rallies to 5th. We'll give him 3-5 scores for 3rd. Hahn and Way end up on the podium. Soil AMA Pro Motocross. It's the Rockstar Energy Drink Unadilla National, one of the most historic sites in this sport. We're expecting a historic showdown between James Stewart, the 2008 AMA Motocross champ, returning to racing for the first time in nearly 2 years, versus Ryan Dungey, the man who has been dominating this series ever since. Moto number 1, they line up side by side. Dungey's going to get the edge and grab the hole shot. And soon we had not only Stewart and Andrew Short up front, but also another visitor, Clement Gasol, a Belgian rider who is here for a one-race only deal, normally races in the MX1 class over in Europe where he was 2nd in points, was riding phenomenally. He would run 2nd, Stewart would make the pass on him, take over the number 2 spot, but then Stewart would crash and Gasol would get him back. Meanwhile, Dungey was pulling away. Down to the last lap it would go. Stewart would try to make a move on Clement. Gasol couldn't make it happen. Dungey wins, Gasol 2nd, James Stewart has returned to racing, up on the podium in 3rd. Moto number 2, a much worse start for Stewart this time, and a better start for Andrew Short. That's his 9th hole shot of the year. That's 9 in 18 motos. He'd hold the lead for a few laps, and then it was Gasol back up there again. Makes a move on Short to take the lead. Dungey follows a pass to get into 2nd. Gasol did his best. He actually held Dungey off well over 20 minutes in this moto. Finally, the number 5 overwhelmed his one-day-only teammate to take another moto win in his 8th straight overall. Gasol 2-2 on the day, finishes 2nd. Brett Metcalf climbed to 3rd by the end of the moto to give him 3rd overall, topping Short. James Stewart, well, bad start in that moto. Things went from bad to worse. He eventually pulled off in some frustration. Didn't finish moto number 2. Championship drama in the 450 class. It's all about Ryan Dungey. Moto number 1, Brett Metcalf and Ben Townley get good starts. They tangle on the first lap. Townley goes down. Metcalf's got the lead. Dungey would move up to the number 2 position. He's won a lot of motos lately, but it looked like Metcalf had the answer. Brett, the veteran from Australia, has come so close to moto win so many times. He had this one in the bag until he runs out of gas on the last lap. Dungey wins the moto. Andrew Short also runs out of gas on the last lap. That's going to give Dungey enough points to allow him to wrap up the 2010 Lucas Oil AMA Pro Motocross 450 Championship in Moto 1. He didn't have much left to prove in Moto 2, but he proves it anyway. Townley comes back, gets the early lead, leads for a few laps. Dungey's able to get around him. He'll go 1-1 on the day. Championship and overall victory for the Dunge. Nice job at a rebound for Townley, but the podium is going to be rounded out by Mike Alessi, who is solid in both motos, and Matt Gerke, back from injury. Last year's Southwick winner, is 3rd overall on a pretty wild day in the 450 class. 50 class. No surprise here, Andrew Short grabs the first moto hole shot, but a big surprise when Ryan Dungey, your new series champ, goes down early. He had some front brake troubles due to the crash. He's out of that moto, so someone else is going to win the overall. How about Brett Metcalf? He'd take the lead from Short and try to win this moto. Kevin Wyndham on the gas. Metcalf stalled, Wyndham took the lead. They would go back and forth a few times, and Wyndham would hold on for a very popular first moto win. Moto number 2, another great start for Short. Dungey and Wyndham are right there. Wyndham would assume the lead, but he didn't need to beat Dungey in this moto to win the overall. He knew it. Dungey gets around him. Dungey is going to get a 40th and a first on this day, but Kevin Wyndham is going to go 1-2 to win the overall, his first in 3 years. Congrats out to the veteran Kevin Wyndham taking the win. Second overall will go to Metcalf, who is 2-3 in the day, and Justin Brayton ends up third overall. Championship locked up coming into this, but Brett Metcalf and Andrew Short are still battling for second and third in the series. Short, no surprise, grabs the first moto hole shot. Metcalf's got to work his way through traffic. He does. He's got to get around a very stubborn Ryan Sipes. By the time he gets through, Short has already lost the lead to Dungey. So now the battle is on for second and third. By the time Metcalf catches up to Short, Short's in the lap traffic. Short tangles in the lap rider. Metcalf takes over the number 2 spot. He's got this moto dialed in. That'll only further extend his points lead over Short for second in the series. Take a wild guess who's out front, folks. Ryan Dungey wins Moto 1. Let's go to moto number 2. Metcalf is really fired up now. Grabs the whole shot in the second moto and starts checking out. Short's in the number 2 spot. Dungey a little bit slow out of the blocks in the second moto. Looked like Metcalf might finally get that moto win in an overall. Where have you heard that before? Then he endos, and instead of breaking bumps, goes all the way back to 8th. Scratch Metcalf from the opportunity for the win. Temporarily, that puts Short in the number 1 spot, which will allow him to take second of the points back until Metcalf launches a strong charge, gets back to third, and that would be enough points to give Metcalf second in the series. Short finishes second in the moto, and on the day, take a wild guess who wins this one, folks. 1-1 for Ryan Dungey. That's 10 wins in his rookie season. That is a new record. The previous record was held by Ricky Carmichael, so that's a pretty impressive one to break.